To Soul Patrol Internet Radio. Soul Patrol Internet Radio. Welcome.
Bob Davis here at the Rhythm and Blues Foundation Pioneer Awards press conference, and I have with me the legendary Philadelphia disc jockey, the geator with the heater, Mr. Jerry Blavat.
My man, pots and pans. Don't be ashamed. Mention my man's name. Don't holler. It ain't gonna cost you $1.
All right. See now, you see, most of you people out there listening to us on soulpatrol.net radio may not even know who Jerry Blavat is, but he is a rhythm and blues pioneer. People associate the music coming out of Philadelphia largely with Dick Clark. People think about Dick Clark all the time, and they associate, with Philadelphia and doing music television and doing stuff on the radio. Tell us how you got started, Jerry.
Well, it's interesting because you say Dick Clark. I actually began as a dancer in 1953 on Bandstand, and at that time it was a local show, and the guy's name was Bob Horn, who was the host.
Right.
And because of the fact that I was a pretty spiffy dancer, and I used to win all of the dance contests, I became the head of the dance committee. And because of that, I weighed like about 115 pounds. I was small. I don't weigh too much more anyway, by the way, today. But back then, I would meet all of the artists and all of the promotion men. And they used to watch me dance, and they for some reason, they like migrated to me, and I migrated to them. It was my first taste of the record business and music back then.
Right.
Always had an ear for black music. Always had an ear for Hank Ballard, Fats Domino, Chuck Berry. And I began buying records. And then I had a group called Danny and the Juniors who had a big hit called At the Hop.
Right.
Okay. Went on the road, worked with all these cats, worked with the Dells, worked with the Flamingos. And that was the beginning for what I was doing. And then I went on radio and did a show from a nightclub, which was a talk show. I owned the time. A snowstorm closed this club down in 1962. Because I owned the time, I had to go back to the radio station and do the show. So I brought all my old records that I used to buy and collect as a kid when I was dancing on Bandstand. And I started to play that. Back then, they were oldies. To us, they were oldies. But to the kids that were listening at that time, at that night, where the storm was coming, it was new to them. And that's where it began. Always loved rhythm and blues. Always had a feel for rhythm and blues. Always loved the pioneers who always led the way. Because you understand, most of the R&B artists back in the 50s were covered by the white artists and the labels, which were the major labels, you see. When I began, it was strictly R&B and the original artists that I would be playing.
Well, yeah, I just want to let you all know, again, Jerry Blavat is one of the legends. You all know that I'm living in South Jersey. I'm not a native of Philadelphia, so this is not a suck-up. All I know is I turned on the TV set one day at about 11:30 at night on a Sunday night, and I'm seeing this white guy dancing off the storm, talking about the music, running his mouth real fast like the old-time DJs, and it was this guy. And he had this whole studio full of people that were dancing. I mean, people don't do that anymore. And then, I watched the show every week and then learned, over the course of time, what this man means to the history of radio in Philadelphia. Much in the same way that we talk a lot about people like Frankie Crocker and Eddie O.J. and people like that from New York. This is a guy who was actually doing it before some of them were. And he's doing it in Philly, and he's a white guy.
Well, let me tell you what my secret of life has been. And remember this is very important for you and your audience. Music knows no race, color, or creed. Music that is good, that brings people together, knows no race, color, or creed. The secret of what I do is that I have the ability and the freedom to play what I feel is right in my heart and communicate with my audience. Today, radio does not allow disc jockeys to do that. Whether they're white, black, pink, or blue, radio is not the way it was. It will never be the way it was. It will never be the way it should be because of big dollars. By the grace of God, I play my music from a heart, not a research chart, and I reach people out there from my and because of my music. And that's what life's about, reaching out to all kinds of people to communicate, and by the grace of God, I do that.
And it's a wonderful thing, and I can just tell you for a fact, and I'm not even sure where you're broadcasting out of now, and you'll tell us that in just a moment, but I can remember as recently as maybe 2-3 years ago, riding up the New Jersey Turnpike, picking up this little radio station, kind of Camden, New Jersey, that was coming in with all kind of stuff on AM, and saying, hey, this is the geator with the heater. And you also had Georgie Woods on there at the same time, and I'm like, why are these legendary disc jockeys forced to appear on such small.
Let me say this to you. It's the only way that it can be today, because radio, as I said, is big business. Radio is owned by one ownership that owns 15 to 20 radio stations around the country, and they're not interested in disc jockeys. They're only interested, it's almost like automation. And unfortunately, the only outlet that we have, I'm on 5 stations, but I own the time. I'm on 92.1 between 5 and 7, where you can pick me up.
Okay.
I'm on Cool 98.3, where you can pick me up from 9 up until 11 o'clock. I'm on 1360 from 2 o'clock up until 4 o'clock, 1490 from 2 to 5 o'clock, and 1370. I own that time. So because I own that time, I sell it to my advertisers. I own that, and I'm able to do my expression of music the way I want it. The sadness is that's the only way it can be today. That's it. It doesn't work any other way.
Well, aren't you also on the internet as well, Jerry?
We're on the internet, geatorgold.net.
Okay, good.
All right, I think these guys want to do their thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're listening to Soul Patrol Internet Radio. Soul Patrol Internet Radio.